Good evening, everybody. How's weather very cold outside?
Yeah.
It's cold, yeah. I'm Douglas, make the yogurt. When we make yogurt, you know how you make yogurt? You have to put, first you have to boil the water, milk, then you cool down, then you can put a little bit yogurt, then you have to put a lot of clothes, like me. Then a couple hours making the yogurt. Anyway, good. Maybe I have to soften to hot. You guys be soften or cold, syndrome. Anyway, very good. We are very fortunate to gather opportunity. Many people also wish to, like John asked that some content was some condition, some condition they're not available, in the different ways. Then you all very effort to join us. That's very good. Also, some people also, since I come to here, 2004, always here, I see all the people's face. Because most people, they change that now. Some people still here. I think that most people now really knew that, but we have some very senior students here. It is very wonderful. It's very good. Even our, ignorance, difficult to understand, difficult to practice that, but we put a lot of importance. And very important to be heard again and again. Then study again and again, I think, for me, I read one book, I read just one time, then I don't understand. I have to read again 2, 3, 4 times. I think you guys, I read once, then means, you already know. Even, Holiness always mentioned, if you can read the Shanidava text, guide to the Shanidava, yeah. You can read 9 times. You have 9 different understands. This what? They change the meaning all the time? No, that you have more understand. You are more familiar. Therefore, very important to read again, study again. It's very good. Then we always say, very important to perfect motivation. I think you all know, already knows to, all the same as us, to wish to happy, wish to wish to free from all the sufferings. Therefore, same as us, if we wish to happy, then in order to happy, we have to free from the suffering. Suffering makes us to unhappy. Therefore, we have to free from the suffering. Then when we free from all the sufferings, when we achieve our, Buddhahood, achieve enlightenment, then complete, we free from all the sufferings. Then we can do all the benefits, also other things. Therefore, benefit for all sentient beings. Therefore, I am going to study, very hard working, very hard study, then like that motivation. Then study is very, very important. Without study, then we don't know, right? When you have to do PhD, you have to study, right? No one gives you PhD. He doesn't study. Same as that, Buddhism also. Without you study, you don't get any results. Therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa says, 담보 제시 또 마음들 받아주는 또 담아셔서 손을 쓰고 담아면서 가는 냠들 땜바집이 최종 모습.
So Lama Tsongkhapa said at the beginning, you should study a lot, and then at the middle, after studying, then you should be able to see all these teachings that you studied as an instruction, a personal instruction to yourself, and then at the end you should apply all these teachings into practice. And then after doing that, then you should dedicate all that for all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, for the Buddha's teaching to increase, and so forth.
근데 다 담보 자체 두바 만도 두여서야 돼. 다 테마 mambo 두와. 대어 테마 지좀 mambo 두와. mambo 두와 되는 뭐라 이래서 두고 그래서.
So when you study, you have to study a lot, many times, from many teachers, from many different teachers, and study even the same text, and you have to study many times to have a better understanding.
어디서 두바세 뺏기지 못해서.
So studying is very important.
그래서 다 지금 뭐지가 담보 제시 두바 만도 바다 담보 야보 투냐 다 시바체네. 되네다데 자성 소소같이 당가에 봐 소소같이 냠내게 내 땡겨봐. 시바체 그래서 담아져서.
So first you have to study extensively as much as possible. You should study, and then in the middle, like I said, all these teachings that you study should appear as should come to you as a personal instruction for yourself.
아니 다만 님들거는 냠들 나왔어. 근데다 다 님들거는 그때는 다 냠내 제거 그래. 수수 샘다 강한 로종 제거들 반대와 제거 그래서.
And then at the end, you should apply this into practice. So whatever teachings that you have studied, you should apply that into practice. Means that you should have it mingled with your mind.
그래서 다 들리 냠슬람바 강수리 강 냠내 시작한테 아니 산지게 때마 제와 로와다와 되게다 뭐야 뭐지 그래서 그러와.
And then at the end, and finally, whatever merit that you have accumulated from studying, from putting into practice and so forth, you should dedicate that, for the teachings of the Buddha to increase.
근데 다 냠내지 손상하라 다 냠내서도 가르쳐 올수있나 아니 다 나베 배잖아 강 랍샤가 되다 수수 샘빈이 되어지 그래서.
So then you should practice. The practice is the teachings that is to be practiced. So whatever teachings that has been taught, it should be connected. You should have that teachings connected with your mind.
Usually we read this book. We have some commandments. You do read it. I'm doing my practice. Right? We call this right. When you do daily practice, it's a practice. Anyway, you read some mantras. That is called. We say I'm doing my practice. But real practice is not that. Right? Real practice means subdue our mind. Not follow all the time the delusions. When your mind start to go into the follow delusions, that time you stop. That is practice. Then if your mind doesn't change anything, always the same. Very easy to get angry, very easy to jealous, very easy to even someone says some word, very easy to hurt yourself. Very easy to hurt. Why he or she said that? Like that. Yeah. Then you have to read maybe every day, maybe 100 pages. Maybe your Lord practice me. But your mind doesn't change. That's not real practice, Why? Therefore, practice means everybody can maybe check your bets. You can check yourself. You don't want to serve people. I'm going to check myself. No, you can just investigate by yourself. Before you become Buddhism or study Buddhism, how your mind, always too easy to follow the delusions. After Buddhism, always say, don't follow the ignorance. Then how many times you heard that, then how much change in your mind. Of course, you study Buddhism, you put very good influence, big merit, but how much you change? Same or a little bit different. Also a little bit different. You know, if it's different a little bit, then some, before you become Buddhist, you don't like to, people say you're doing something wrong. Immediately you get angry, you step back. Then now if someone says, you doing it, you can just think, eventually you think, it's like, no, not. Usually we don't think, right? You guys think someone said, you do it wrong, you guys think? No, right? We just immediately, no, I do that, this is because we have also a lot of reasons. Usually everybody has a lot of reasons. Even if someone killed the father, there are also reasons. Because I want to kill my father. Because there are a lot of reasons. Therefore, someone asks you, you say something wrong or you do something wrong for something. We say, oh no, I'm not wrong because I do this because of the reasons. But usually we don't think it's wrong or not. Now you can check. If someone show me something, someone says something to me, if someone send me some email, some unhappy email, and how you think, or you just immediately turn back. Even you think, this makes a little bit, put a little water, Like the anyway, practice means not just doing all day you read maybe thick book, recite a lot of mantras. In His Holiness said, of course very good, the retreat at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, is very good. But the purpose of your retreat is subdue your mind. Subdue it. And mind, subdue your delusions. If your mind doesn't change anything, also maybe you have a little bit more pride. You say, oh, I did 3 years retreat. I'm not a little bit, I'm the better than them, Then how do you call this? Fingernail. Yeah, fingernail.
So His Holiness said, you should exhaust your delusions when you're doing retreat like that for 3 years. But some people, they do retreat, during the retreat they just keep on counting mantras and then they exhaust their fingernails. So they should be exhausting their delusion, not the fingernails.
Right. This has happened, this has happened. Usually you can see that Tibetan all Palamalas, they exhaust the nail. They always do mantra. But sometimes they talk it on, they say talk it, fingers are going, Then they talk that their hand is always, habit. Then they come here, they say, oh, I do one mala, one thing. Sometimes they doesn't do any one mala, any one single mantra, they just talk, they do that. Because then, mind is habit, fingers habit. Then, you can see the finger. You can just check, Pala come here, maybe there. Not sure. But that's happening, Therefore, His Holiness always said, very important to study. I think long term, also in Tibetan, before 1959, also many monasteries have not studied. They have some virtues, they're chanting, they do all pujas. They don't, real deep study. Of course, some, but then since we come to exile, then the Holiness also start to, all the monasteries have to study, include the nunneries, have to study, have to education. Then, the reason is, then, all call it there. Lama Tsongkhapa say, very important to God, then also other many texts. Therefore, we are here also, even His Holiness come to Western, he told the, teachers, for them, give for them education, not just, Usually Westerns like to meditation, right? He said meditation, I don't know really what the meditation is. Meditation means you have to something you have to focus your mind, subject. Therefore you have to meditation, maybe emptiness, bodhicitta, loving kindness, dead impermanence. Then you have to study, first you have to study, right? Like that, always he told, Western teachers or the lamas, geshes, very important to keep the education. Even he told the public to Western, say, you don't need to come to Buddhism, you study Buddhism. You just must study, it's very important, Therefore, anyway, we are also to follow that, study that. It's also very good, you all very effort students, is correct? Right. So, Chimbo, effort student. Therefore, I'm very happy, and like that. Then, therefore, that is the thought to about the kitchen, but it's in the two bed some said that better some say how. Two bed, the moon said to me, come on, also, Majid, no Jim Charles, on this one.
So therefore, study is very important. Study, study or hearing or study is very important. And also in this text, I'm not sure who composed it, but it says that the study is, it's like a lamp, that dispels the darkness of indoors, and it is the best of the world because that cannot be stolen by any others. So other worlds, you can lose them, right? They can be stolen or can be robbed, by others. And also, we'll have so much worry thinking that somebody will steal it.
I heard cover this. I'm not talking about who are there, Someone called me, They have some jewelries. Not here. They have some jewelry. They lost. She not lost that. She put some place there. She doesn't know where she put. Then, we checked a lot more. Finally, we got there, Usually, 도파 치고도 다 잘라서 공사 좀 하는 거죠. 도파 치고 이러. 대신 고하고 다 잘라 공사 좀 하고 있었어요.
So people with a suspicious mind or very strong doubt in their mind will not find a place to hide their wealth because they always are suspicious. They think, oh, maybe if I hide here, maybe they will find it out. Maybe if I hide there, maybe they will find it out. So they will not find a place to hide.
This happened, right? But anyway, she hides someplace. She doesn't know after where she hides. Since they are scores, they had the food, then they didn't find. Yeah, then how much here the world? Jewelries, golds. We have more body, more body, right? Therefore, are you rich that you said to maybe someone kill me or someone steal that, Even sometimes that happen, Tibetans, they have a lot of
Precious stones.
Precious stones, they love against the Tibetan ladies have lot. Sometimes they, the robbers to kill the
And so the Tibetan ladies, they wear these precious stones like the corals as a necklace. And so many people get killed because, so many ladies get killed because they're wearing these, the robbers, and they want to steal that. And for that, they kill the people, or the women, who's wearing that. So those kind of belongings, wealth can be stolen by other people, can be robbed, and can even cost your life, and so forth. But the wealth of knowledge, cannot be stolen by others. It's always with you.
But we are not worried, you all know, you don't have a lot of jewelries. Maybe not worried for them. Maybe someone steal my jewelry, diamonds. Therefore, tuba saya tiga tak temu mumba dia panggil kerana searching tapi cuma dah ada.
And it's also like the light, that dispels the darkness of ignorance.
Bena temu me dome saya di bena tak cuma kerana jangan tu bena dembasi musuh me na dembasi masih mengenai jangan tu dembasi lah tak muda temu tak muda singgah marwas.
So if you haven't studied the Four Noble Truths, you are ignorant to the Four Noble Truths first, right?
다 투바지 로저진네 덴바시 내서 시원 삼아라 인지게 뜨무고데 다 설서 말이죠.
So later when you study and then you come to know about them, then your ignorance to those Four Noble Truths is gone and is eliminated.
와다 투베가 뜨무면 도면 설서 설도 된다고 그랬죠.
And so that's what it means when you say that the study dispels the darkness of ignorance.
어 근데서 다 라마 통갑이 아니 랑도 내라 모빈 가래 랑도 내라 모빈 만 바꾼 그래 다 드디어로 오면 같이 알아 간지 랑도 그 내라 모빈 만 바데 아니 투바도 매와 투베기 싫으면 나한테 사토 말해서
And also Lam Tsongkhapa said that the ignorance, the darkness of ignorance of not knowing what is to be abandoned, what is to be cultivated, and cannot be dispelled. That darkness of not knowing what is to be cultivated, what is to be abandoned, cannot be dispelled without the light of knowledge or study.
I don't know the words. I forgot. What is that? 근데 이번에도 다 남조치 남지메 샤메사가는 타와도 트린집에 남세야 된다 말라 다 로로치 고도고 다 지무세 다 제고레스.
And in order to travel on the path that we have never traveled before, we definitely need the knowledge of that path, right?
근데 그 로로치한테 아니 자도 샤방고보다 공부를 돌아서 아니 유목가나 쇼리다 라바즈마이 봐 아니 끊어야고 장고레스 다 소송레스.
So the path, to enlightenment, so that path we have never traveled on before. In order to travel on that, you have to have the knowledge. So you have to study, all the text, the teachings according to the explanations or teachings given by Nagarjuna and so forth.
Okay,
So to study well and study all.
What? 다대한테면 가담에 기회신이다. 아니 득바당 기회주 마투바데 심이죠. 득바당 기회주인데 야부 마투바데 심 말해서 봐.
And also Kadamba masters said that what is good or what is bad, what are the virtues and what are the non-virtues, you will not know the difference without studying.
근데다 공배나 공단 빼셔야 되나. 아니 공단 빼나다 몽골이 되어 있나. 아니 대라에 주매지킨래요나. 공미 여와인자 다 주매지킨은 기 여운 동으로 대도 지발해서. 만돌에 혈압되어다 다가. 만돌로 디가 아니 디네로 야보 이상와이나. 아니 다 주는 디네로 신청 말고 야본 동거를 해서 그러고.
So it's just like the example they used here, in the dark, and even if you have the eye, if it's dark, you will not see anything, right? Even if you have eye. But if you bring a light, then with the eye, then you can see the things. You'll be able to see the things. So just like that, even though we have wisdom, but because we don't have the light of study or knowledge, therefore we're not able to see the truth. And so if we study and get that light of the knowledge of the study, then with that and with our wisdom, we'll be able to see the truth.
드네 맞았다 대전의 개화다 대비에 주셔야 돼. 투바지나 다 넘어가는 거 싫어래. 야고 싫어래. 다 대가되면 교육신도 좋은데.
So if we study, then of course we'll come to know what is virtues, what is non-virtues, what are to be cultivated, what are to be abandoned, right?
Okay. What is this? This is not just a talk, This is a quotation for the Kadamba masters, then the Lama Tsongkhapa, and the other one. I don't know, maybe Shani Deva or maybe Nagarjuna someday. Really, we composed, I don't remember the name. Anyway, it's not just make my own opinion. This is a quotation for Buddha's. 근데 다 근데 투게는 근데 투고는 워낙 투자도 수자 투고 그래서 다 맞으라고 그랬어요.
And so if you have to study, then who should you study from?
근데 근데 투자되고 다 만다인데 소소래지 연대때 다 도이고 그랬어.
And so you should study from a teacher who knows about that, right? Who knows about those subjects, and somebody who has more knowledge than at least more knowledge than yourself.
근데 다 개개해야 돼 간지. 다들 이시다 제주주에서 대방으로 송유에서 간지 맞이 아니 다 만다인면 소소래 연대 쳐와 아니 라다 신이는 그 이제 또 승리지. 아니 지금 다시 한번 이제 되는 거 그래요. 되고 그랬어.
And so you have to study, you have to look for a perfect guru, a guru with all the qualities of the teacher, and of course there are many qualities mentioned in many different texts, the 10 qualities and so forth, and mentioned in different texts. But at the very least, it has to be someone who has more knowledge about the Dharma than yourself, the Dharma that you study from somebody. So he or she should have more knowledge about Dharma than yourself, and who cares about others more than oneself, and who has loving kindness and compassion. So it has to be at least those qualities, at least someone who has at least those qualities.
근데 다 가담배 교신에서 봐도 저한테는 저래서 와. 근데 소속으로 좀 쟤는 저기도 이지미지 다 경험을 땡고 문도 와세. 근데 개개 땡고 된다. 여보 머신이 돌아면 신경도 땡고 말아 왔더니 저한테 땡고 말해 와세. 땡고 세워다 머신도 되면 신경도 말해 와세 저한테 이랬어.
So we have to rely on a teacher, and so some people might think that why do we have to rely on a teacher? Only if you don't know, then you have to rely on a teacher. If you know, why do you have to rely on teachers?
대대다 가담배 교신 소리. 텐데 대 아니 개개를 맞대 봐야나 아니 개개도 라면 맹아도 온 거야 말이야. 맹아도 매와야나 아니 신호도 좀 말이야. 신호도 만진다 소리가 또 받게 말이야. 송그래서.
So sometimes you can find, or you can study just by reading the book, right? And so what difference is there in terms of gaining the knowledge, either from reading book or by receiving teacher from a teacher? So the difference is that the instruction, you will not find the instruction, even though you find the information, but you will not find the instruction, from the book, like you find, and also especially the lineage, the unbroken lineage, of that, that teaching, passing from one to another, has to come through the teacher, and also the blessings of that, the stream of the teachings, comes from the teacher.
근데 빼도 셔야 돼. 빼. 배나. 너도 님에게도 타고 셔야 돼. 와서. 다 올라 딱 간보셔. 네가 님에게도 타다 와이나. 아니 다 싸들 멤버 통요 말했어. 근데 그 대니 빨라야 아니 셔거 셔. 이거도 시고 메시스. 대자 메시드가 니 마셔. 되게 님에게도 따라 되면 따라 멤버 이랬어. 그래서 개개해야 돼. 아니 다 상계도 정신이 바로 내가 증인으로 또 인스라고 그러더라고.
So the teacher is like the connection between the Buddha and the disciples. So Buddhas are not, the disciples are not able to receive teachings directly from the Buddha, and so who do they receive it from? It's the teacher. And so the example they applied, it's like the magnifying glass, and the sun, the rays of the sun, will not be able to burn, the dried grass. But if you put a magnifying glass in between, and that can burn that can cause the fire and burn the grass. So in order to in order for the disciples to gain the knowledge and to gain the blessings, have to have the teacher between the Buddha and the disciples.
Therefore, do you know this how you make fire? Maybe you guys have no idea what you talk about. This is we nomads. We do that. It's not real grass. There was some special grass. We do fire. When we was a kid, we do all the time that. The sun heat the grass, and the grass set there for the grass. Yeah, they make fire. Therefore, therefore, it's very important to you here. But the gang said the country 2,000 gang
And so, it is important to to rely on a teacher, and you have to rely on a teacher, a qualified teacher. And so finding a qualified teacher is very important. So if you don't receive the instruction directly from the teacher, you will not be able to gain realizations just by reading of books like this.
What in the Mayaza, that in the Manga said the Karazana, and the Manga said the type Shidan Ramramur, and the Lojon to Zumala, and the Homiji and the Gegala, they what the Manga raised to Sonshas.
So the instruction, there are so many different kinds. And many. In general, when we talk about instruction, it means just the knowledge, right? So knowledge or information about something, how to do and what to do and how to do and so forth like that. So that kind of information is called instruction. But in some teaching, it says that the instruction, is not just referring to the knowledge or information, but is referring to the faith, the devotion that the disciple has towards his or her teachers.
That they can't do Mango. When I social Deva Yosa Gigan's and Chinabana, gave the Khan Lava the Susan and Yammy can't shit to the was. Then the social Pango, the 30 men on the child.
So the reason why is that called instruction is because then that really becomes instruction. So if you have a faith and devotion towards the teacher, then you listen to him or her, right? And then you will follow, right? So when you follow that, then that really becomes instruction. And you follow that because of your strong faith and devotion towards the teacher.
What is what in the Gigan?
So just like it is explained in the Lamrim teachings, we should analyze about the teacher. So you have to check the teacher, and then finally rely on him or her.
What is today by that? Oh, to buy a watch, to be the young language, and they come to the Teochi. That they are watching going on the rest of
And so anyway, so study well, and then whatever you study, try to put into practice, and then dedicate at the end.
And then Numa and Chivia and Georgia, Adisha, and Memano, she's a Talabaris. And then Georgia, and Memashiva Deva Mena Memo Maris to Son, Tapas on Baris.
And so somebody in Tibet once, met Lama Adisha on the way, and he asked Lama Adisha to give him instruction. And Lama Adisha said, the instruction is the faith in your mind. If you don't have that, you will not receive instruction. And then he walked away. So anyway, we don't have to talk too much about that. The most the important thing is that that we have to study well. So now here, studying about the wheel of sharp weapon, it all talks about all these sufferings that we experience through our body, speech, and mind. Whenever we're going through these sufferings, through our body, speech, and mind, we have to think or remember, understand that that is the evil action that we have caused on others that is turning back onto ourselves now. So the sufferings that we don't wish to experience, there are two types, right? The physical suffering and mental sufferings.
Is it include all the suffering for them?
So do these two in sufferings, the physical suffering and mental suffering, include all kinds of sufferings?
Yes.
How about each of the finger? Is what suffering? Is it physical or mental?
Physical.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it's physical, right? What? Anyway, not only you have two sufferings, all the suffering mental. She said that don't think it was.
So in general, all the sufferings are included within those two sufferings, right?
다 데리가도 가서 다 레지 동안도 선지 동안에 영어 진짜 가야만 지금 가려 삼고에만 또 셰차이 봤어.
So last time we talked about a little bit about what is the physical suffering, what is the the mental sufferings and what causes physical sufferings that we're going through and so forth, right? And at that time, when we experience the physical suffering, at that time we should engage in the practice of Tonglen, or taking and giving.
Then you do meditation, then maybe. What do you do? All the sufferings come to you. He said, what can I do? If your maybe mind has so you want to send them mind, did you want
So when you do the practice of taking and giving, you have to imagine taking all the sufferings of other beings upon yourself. And so you should wish yourself to experience the suffering, to go through the suffering rather than others going through suffering. You should prefer yourself to go through their suffering, right? And then some people might think, so what? Some people might be scared that they will be experiencing all the sufferings of others, and then might think, what happens? What would happen if I were to go through all the sufferings of all other beings? And actually, if you have that kind of feeling, scared feeling, then actually that's good. That means your thought, your practice becoming really effective.
There's something walking, something moving there. There's that only said the Chetan Gong Tan Ram Ram. There's that only said the Tambota Susan, Go Susan Tambo.
So the practice of taking and giving, when you engage in the practice of giving, you should start from yourself. So whenever we're going through some kind of suffering, it is because of the negative action that we have created, right? Some kind of negative action that we have created, and because of that, then we're going through this suffering. And what caused us to create that negative action is our self-cherishing attitude. So because of our self-cherishing attitude, we engage in that negative karma. Right? So, and as a result of engaging in that negative karma, we're experiencing this suffering now. So when you're engaging in that practice, of taking and giving, first, you sit down and set up a more proper motivation by reciting the refuge and the bodhicitta prayer.
And the time, and the tea water and Temission, and then Temission, and then the one David and Dharmarakshita, then a Jumbo Devil out, and it's 6 days, or Makashi, Learnia, till it's some down.
So you recite the refuge and the bodhicitta prayer, and contemplate on the meaning of those words that you recite. And then after that, then you recite the 4 immeasurables, the prayers, the words of the 4 immeasurables. And as you recite that, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the cause of sufferings. How wonderful it would be if they are all free from sufferings. I myself will free them all from the sufferings. You have to think like that. So when you recite that in the word, and just as you recite, you should also think with your mind.
If you do only practice this, then you can do that. If you do other things, you can put any place, whatever daily practice. Then the take up like that, you so Nila, Nasa, Semla, Kanga, Kanado, and us. Then tell us to some of our rest, that the Kalinach. And it's so cheap. 30 years, and you know the Nala, so you know. And it's so Lama, Gay, and it's Sanjay, Chazon, touching the yoga of some town.
And actually, before doing that, when you visualize, when you sit down to do that practice, you should visualize, the merit field. So the merit field it consists of all the holy beings, including starting with one's root guru in the middle, and then surrounded to him all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 direction. And then oneself sitting in the front of the merit field. Facing towards them, and then surrounded to oneself are on all the sentient beings of all 6 realms.
What that Tendikabayachi, that's Suzuki, Yam doesn't be on Chinaya Chole, there's so much on Machiva Chinayachi, Suzuki, they were part of the Dumatin of the regional Chole as well.
And so at that time, you can also do the visualization or meditation on flowing of the nectars and lights If you don't do that, then you can also engage in the practice of taking and giving.
데리다다 섬제다 대화다 대배지나 담을 지시 동안다 동안지나 저거 지들 송청말라 아니 지 소수 리지나 섬지 동안 강화 요바티 강화 디다라야 아니 섬지 탐지고 아니 리지나다 섬지 동안 강화 요바티 뭐지 그래서 도 가면이야 짱짱은 나지 소수를 덤내는 소수기라 다 나도 뒤 돌아 만나도 줄어가는 말로네 아니 리자가 막 짱마 쳤다 내비지 짱마 쳐서 물어봤어 근데 까마잖아요. 수수지 삼지 가와로 오지 대화를 되게 대화도 하지 삼지 탐정을 파캡 나 삼지 탐정이 이렇게 이제 삼지 동안 봤다 소문이 뭐지 대내로 파다 지우당 되서 뭐 된다고 지우래서
너 가려 봐서
돈에 짜지야 짜세 위에 짜지 어때는 짜지 수수 삼지가 이제 동안 가만 수수
And so when you recite that prayer, saying, may all sentient beings be happy, and may all sentient beings be free from suffering. So when you think like that, when you say that, at that time, then you can imagine taking the sufferings of all sentient beings, and then giving the happiness to all sentient beings. Taking the suffering of all sentient beings upon oneself, and giving one's happiness to all sentient beings. So, so you, as you recite that, you can also do the visualization of taking all the suffering of sentient beings. So just like a solid iron, solid the magnet, will pull any kind of metallic objects, just like it pulls that, and you imagine pulling all the sufferings, and all the cause of suffering of all sentient beings upon yourself into you, and then that comes down onto the self-cherishing attitude at your heart. And that destroys that self-cherishing attitude in your heart. So imagine very strong and solid like that in your heart, and then as the sufferings come into you, that destroys that. And so because now the self-cherishing attitude is destroyed, now you don't have the selfish thought, and now you're free from that, and you experience an extremely great bliss in your mind. And then that bliss of having destroyed your self-cherishing attitude, then imagine giving to the sentient beings. And then thereby now they experience great happiness, great bliss, and that purifies all their negative karmas, and they don't have to experience any suffering anymore in the future. So imagine that. So imagine taking the suffering of all sentient beings into yourself like that, and then giving the happiness that you generate from it, destroying your self-cherishing attitude towards others. And so that if you are able to do that practice, that will purify a great amount of negative karma. So this is very powerful because you're always thinking about others, right? So when you do that thought, it purifies negative karma. And so when the negative karma is purified, then there's no more cause left for you to suffer, right? So because the cause of the suffering is the negative karma. And so when there's no negative karma, then there'll be no suffering. There'll be no physical sufferings, no mental sufferings.
And the part on the Samara, Jamzumala Chit do you shana? And the chick about the parts, Jiguni, stretching Pantala, Payago, Tendo. So then stretching the person, Chamala Pachalo,
and so when you give the happiness to others, then, like I said earlier, you start from yourself. So first give it to yourself, and then give it to the people close to you. Then a little bit further, and then further, then towards all sentient beings. So it should be like a ripple, caused by a stone thrown in the water. It forms a ripple, and then it moves it back, towards them, goes further and further. So just like that, when you start giving happiness to others, you start from yourself, and then move further and further to all sentient beings. And so you do this practice, keep on doing this practice until you really strongly feel that you feel like kind of tired in your body, tiresome in your body, and then you start even like to sort it. And that is really a good sign.
Well, that time, Matawan didn't was Kamashawa, the Sukiwan, and ladies, and some other thousand ladies, which is all coming to Chavana, coming to Donage of Pendo.
And so even if one is not able to do that practice, of taking and giving like that, but just by thinking that, whatever suffering that I'm going through is the result of negative karma created by myself in the past. So if you are thinking like that, you're able to think like that, then just by thinking like that, you're taking the suffering, right? You're accepting the suffering, and then suffering already becomes much less by thinking like that. And so here in the verse 12, and it talks about the sufferings of hunger and thirst. What causes the suffering of hunger and thirst? And so here it says, when I am tormented by extreme hunger and thirst, it is the weapon of my own evil deeds turned upon me for swindling, stealing, and acting miserly. From now on, I shall willingly take all hunger and thirst upon myself. And so when we experience this suffering of extreme hunger and thirst, then at that time we should think this is the result of the negative karma that I've created in the past by swindling or cheating on others, by stealing or robbing their wealth, and by acting miserly, towards the wealth that I possess, not being able to use for myself or not being able to give to others, and keeping it there all the time without being used by myself or others. And because of that negative karma, now I'm going through this suffering of extreme hunger and thirst.
But you guys have maybe we have not problem there, right?
So you never had to go through that kind of extreme suffering, right? The suffering of extreme hunger and thirst. When you're hungry, you immediately find water, right?
Water and food we have a lot here, right? When I was beggar, that time I have this problem. Sometimes maybe you guys say I was beggar. I don't have anything. Even I don't have in my also what's that cup.
Begging bowl.
Begging bowl. Even I have begging bowl. When I go to beggar, is when I was 19th. Then I go to restaurants. I can see that the people eating there. Usually the Tibetan culture, you go to family's house, can you give food? They will give. Then no family, then we go to the trance, we have to go to a restaurant. Then you can see the people eating there. You just watch that. We have to also waiting for until they finish. Then we very, very, food is very delicious, very, very hungry. But, usually, right now we have also, Mishima Kashi Saitaka, Santo Saino, Sobati Roshitani. The Tika Mondo Tintelli, Yomar. She's higher.
So maybe not so much here in this country, right? But like in India, people say that the food is polluted. So that means if somebody has already eaten in that plate, and if there's some leftover food in from that plate, then that food is polluted by that person, and so you don't eat it. But here, you just share, right? So in the same place, so people eat from the other people's plate and so forth. So and so Geshe was saying that when he was begging and didn't find the food, there was no choice to think that, oh, this is polluted food, I don't want to have it.
There were hundreds of people left over, go to restaurants. sometimes people, some people very nice, they give to, they can give for us, they like to. Sometimes they doesn't give, they kick out of us. It's very, very hard for us. I have this problem, suffering a lot. This is also my karma, But now I'm thinking, oh, this is really my karma. That time, I didn't think about karma because I don't have money. I don't have any relatives. I don't know anyone. Then I have no choice. I'm very
and I wasn't brave enough to go out to steal or rob.
I was still in Lhasa 2 months. One family is on the porch. Daytime I go to the bank, around in Lhasa area. The nighttime I come to the sleep on the porch. Sometimes a lot of raining, they come down. Anyway, like that is I don't have any other experience. I have experienced how feel the beggars. I was the beggar, But today this is also my karma, No one did it. But I have a lot of experience. Today I don't know why I have to talk this. Anyway. Well, today you got a kanji ta tree the tree was a comba the same as the Jumayumate, kanji ta Suzu, Kiwan Haman, you are less Sasha when the day was
So like it is said in here, the cause for that kind of suffering of the extreme hunger and thirst is because of stealing, swindling, acting miserly, and so forth. And so in this sense, then from now on I shall willingly take all hungers and thirst upon myself. And so not only that suffering of hunger and thirst, but the sufferings that you have to that you experience going through when you're engaged in the practices, like doing the fasting retreat, right? So when you do the fasting retreat, you don't eat, you don't drink anything, and at that time you feel like you experience the suffering of hunger and thirst, and then also when you're making prostrations, the physically when you're making prostrations, you have to go through a lot of suffering, a lot of the physical pains and so forth. And so by thinking that, just like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past, went through all these sufferings, they endured all these sufferings, to practice Dharma, to work for the benefit of others. Just like that, I will endure all these sufferings now, to work for the benefit of others. So if you experience suffering to practice the Dharma, if you go through the difficulties, while practicing Dharma, then that purifies negative karmas a lot. So just like when you're sitting here with cross-legged, it is not comfortable for many of you, but you still, endure those sufferings and then, go through that practice of sitting cross-legged, while listening to the teaching. So that purifies
But you are, we call it.
And so you endure those suffering, and you're doing that for the sake of Dharma, and therefore you create a lot of positive merits. So if you clears those negative karma of stealing or robbing others' possessions, others' wealth, then in the future one will be deprived of those wealth. And also if we're miser, and about the possessions that we won, then also we'll go through those kind of sufferings.
대다때 간지 퇴근고 동안 와도 다 소중해 내서 하시면 되고 레서로 다 쉬고 중에 다 조선 바티가 안에 다 소소라 미신 그 내주시 나서 내주는 것이 나.
So that is the explanation of the verse 12, saying that when we experience the suffering of extreme hunger and thirst, then that is the result of negative karma that is created by cheating or stealing and on others and acting miserly on one's own possessions. And now in the verse 13, when somebody look down on us, what is the what kind of cause have we created for someone to look down on us, someone to like exploit us and so forth.
그래서 오메 제진 코지 나비테 메라 다시 되도 거봐요. 레멘트 잡는 거봐요. 다음에 소식이 돈도 꽤서 정도 왔습니다.
So just like it says here, when I am powerless and suffer enslavement, it is the weapon of my own evil deeds turned upon me for despising my inferiors and enslaving them. From now on, I shall make slaves of my body and my mind for the sake of others. So in this country, nobody will bow down to other people, right? Other person.
Always say, I can do myself. I'm there because I'm there. Today that country is 당님만 작아도 배도 들어다 이셔 작업들이야. 간지 답본보도 요 보세요. 단데기 제일 쉬워요.
So here you always think that I'm the capable one. I can do it myself. I don't have to and bow down to others like that, right? But in Asian countries in the ancient time or even nowadays maybe a little bit less than before, but still there's a difference of caste and difference of people thinking that I'm a minister, I'm like a rich, wealthy owner, and then others they think that I'm poor and powerless and I'm slave and so forth. So that kind of discrimination is still there.
어다 던데 동아 영화대 딱 가진나 안에 라레 pombo 안에 정말로서 현지 trash 요시 문제비 어떻게 가지 좋았나 내가 해봐다 나 랑기 안에 짐발라 던데기 안에 제주가 안에 tra도 거봐 요거 거봐 안에 제가 봐 왕이 시가 되게 되었다 소소랑 친구라래 그래서.
And so some people they just bow down, so they say, "Oh, I'm poor. I have no knowledge. I have no wealth, nothing. So I'm very poor. So I should bow down to others." So that kind of feeling they have, and they do that naturally. And then others, the people who are rich, they say, "I'm powerful and this, and I have this knowledge and wealth and so forth. So I can look down on them and so forth." So that kind of feeling, that comes. And anyway, so when one is going through that kind of sufferings of being enslaved by others, looked down by others, then again, at that time, then one should think, this is the result of the negative karma that I have created by despising on others before, by inferring others or enslaving them. Because of that, now I'm going through this suffering. And so sometimes we are praised, sometimes we're criticized, right? So at the time when we're praised, we feel happy. When we're criticized, we feel unhappy, right? And so the Kadamba masters, they said, I'll be happy if I'm criticized, but I will be not happy if I'm praised. So which one are we? We will be happy, right? We'll be happier if we're praised, right? And so the Kadamba masters will say, I will be happy if I'm criticized. I'm not happy if I'm praised. And then there's the reason why they feel happy if they're praised is because when somebody praises you, then you become arrogant.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes. Yes. It's sad, Teresa Karo, Teresa Matichero. Mena and Rancho Ranga, the sheet of the Teresa, Mena Teresa.
When somebody criticizes you, that opens your eye to the reality, right? And so you will come to know what is your problems and what faults you have and so forth. So you come to know that. So therefore it opens your eye, so therefore it's better if somebody criticizes you.
But if you don't accept that, if you don't accept someone say you're bad, you say, no, I'm not bad because you're bad. What is it? That didn't make a do not
And also the Kadama masters say that they will be happier if they are suffering, but not happy if they are comfortable and feeling happy. So if they are happy, they are comfortable, they are happy, then the delusions will increase.
True. So whatever we have something, we need to more, right? If we don't have much, then not much things to do, Then how much we have, then we have never enough with more. But not enough, then just yeah, we have not much to.
No much to hope for.
다 견나마가 두나가 견나 녀모 두수 배워 두수 왔다 녀모도 아니 그나 동조 침모지다는 다 정말에 침에서 양 두시를 와서 지나봐야 보려고 제가 지금은 다나 담녀가 침모에서 가지 양면 두시 영어로 와서
so so if you have a lot of wealth, then you might also look down on others, those who are poor than yourself, right? So and then if you have fame and name, and good looks and so forth, then also again you might look down on others, right? As I'm more beautiful, I'm more rich and so forth, and by saying that those are not very beautiful, not very powerful, not very rich and so forth, and so then you start to look down on others. And so the Kadama masters used to say that they would prefer to be unhappy than be happier. So if they are happy, then the delusions like attachment and the arrogance and so forth will increase. If they are unhappy, and if they are suffering, they're unhappy, if they are suffering, then that is exhausting the negative karmas that they have created in the past. And so it's better, they will prefer to experience suffering because that will purify or exhaust the negative karmas. So if you go through sufferings and difficulties for the sake of Dharma, or for the sake of helping others, then that purifies a lot of negative karmas you have created in the past.
And then so Majaga want the Karota. Dachin the Yama the Chene, Dumanana, the Antele, Numu Masa, and Le Masa, Numu Mando was.
But if you are experiencing suffering for the sake of yourself, out of self-cherishing attitude, and so forth, then that may not work well, right? So that may even increase more delusions, right? So if you're suffering and then you have this strong self-cherishing attitude, then that might make you become angry, right? And then create more negative karmas. And so those are what we call 8 worldly concerns. 8 worldly concerns, and thinking that being happy if you're happy, and unhappy if you're not happy, or happy if you're praised, and not happy if you're criticized, like that. So we should act opposite to those. So when you listen or when you hear this kind of teachings, then instead of thinking, this is telling her, telling him, instead of thinking like that, you should think like it's telling me. So if you think like that, then that teaching is becoming effective to you. And so when we are told that you should not be, angry, you should not be a very angry person, and then we always think, oh, I'm not that very angry, and maybe he's talking about somebody else.
those malas are that getting in Lamedy. The thing I can't get it to Kurukulla, money, none of those on Shona, then money to Lama the Lomegi, comes down.
And so when you feel that he's telling you, your teacher, whoever that's going to be, or whoever that is, if he's telling you, then if you feel like he's telling you or she's telling you, then that builds the connection between you and your teacher. So sometimes you used to say something like, oh, how did he know that I have this kind of thought? So if you feel like that, then that builds a strong connection between you and your teacher.
Otherwise, oh, maybe he talk about some other things, or maybe some then because Dharma, you have very big gap. We don't need any gap for us and Dharma. If Dharma and our big gap go to horse, then the big problem. We don't need any, even maybe air cannot go to between them. Then this is good. We talk, we say, oh, maybe they talk about it. Even we look this. Usually we, we teachers in Sera, the monks, thousands of monks, puja term, they teach for us. You guys all think about it, you're looking for here to here. You say, oh, he's very, looking for all the bad qualities. He's a very angry person, or he's very meditation. Pride. You find everybody has single people has problems. Then who does have? Just me. Right? Then you can check, maybe you go to the co-worker, you can check. My co-worker, she's something, there's something wrong. Here's something wrong. Finally, just me, we don't have any problem. And this is a big problem. And therefore, we have such a very strong ego. And we try to, also a little bit include all the community. And anyway, what do you call it? Practice means whatever you study, whatever the longrams, lojons, mindfulness say, the mind and this little bit, what do you call it? Put together. Put together, okay? Mix together. A very, very big gap. Big horse will go there, maybe cars, maybe big trucks go there, then this doesn't look good. They will try to how much we can't. We cannot be whole things, but slowly. Try to build little bit. Try to better. Always looking for other problems, don't like that. Try to is it really the problem or this my problem? Most of our problem, because we have very strong ego. We think, or he or she say, he actions. It's not correct. This is not right way. It's too much. We always think, but we don't think our fault. This is why we have very strong ego. Therefore, a little bit think about that. Whenever that, always we find problems for others. We cannot find problems for ourselves, right? That time you have to be very careful thinking, It's really my fault or is really that fault? Maybe sometimes their fault, of course their fault, but most we have very strong ego. Then we don't check for us. The Kadamba teaches that you have to put your hand in your chest. You got this knee, nail, put your teeth. I don't know this teeth. You have to think about yourself. I don't know, maybe just anyway. You can check by yourself. What kind of person me? If I have some problem or not, you can. Usually we don't check ourselves, right? We never check. You get check. What kind of person? we check our face. Oh, no, I look nice, We don't check our mind. How one kind of person. Right? We just checking our shape. We have to check a little bit ourselves. ego. Then how like that? If people always find problems from others, they can't have the more strong egos. And how much you are kidding? How much? How much is the
How big?
How big you have ego then? You are never ever you're comfortable. You will never ever find the comfortable place. Always problem. Because you have very strong ego, then no one dealing with you is difficult. Like that, very important to think for ourselves every day, slowly. We cannot do it one time. Little bit. Think about what kind of person me. You don't need to think, you don't need to check her, you don't need to check him, just think for hours. Okay? Like that, then we stop. Any questions? Also, read this book again, okay? You're very good, memorize. Memorize very difficult, and read, Even you read and also a little bit think about what they talk about, who they talk about. Okay? Yeah.
What is the book?
This WheelOfSharpWeapons.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
The WheelOfSharpWeapons, they cut for our ego mind. Yeah? Yeah.
So, question about verse 12 when it talks about why we get hungry and thirsty. Is this talking about actual just hunger and thirst because of why it occurs? Like science can explain why we get hungry and thirsty. Or is this talking about the suffering of hunger and thirst? Or when we get hungry and thirsty but we can't get food and drink? Is it talking about those specific situations where the suffering is extreme of hunger and thirst and we can't get food, we can't get drink? Is it saying that this is the cause of that?
저것도 하던 가끔은 되죠. 동아시라. 이랬더니 그래 제가 가르치는 것도 저것도 그래 가르치는 것도 가끔 걸 쓰고 여기 지금 가르치고 그래서 세린 거들 시다시는 그래서 다 가끔은 저것도 이제 가르는 소방 가르쳐야 돼. 그래서 그 차방처럼 차방 괜찮은 거는 가서 되는 저것도 가끔 아무래도 이제 단단 가서 이 대공 동화 세대 가다 배 쇼지 배 소마터들 대공 동화 되는 시거 그때 가는 시거 그게 가서 대공 동화 때 tempo 연구라 그래서 시거였어.
그래서 먼저 틀면은 그러다 예다도 소용 거라 예다도 되더라.
그러니까 맞아라던 가서 이제 가서 대공 동화 tempo 지어라. tempo 연구를 깜깜을 만들다 가라도 들어 말아도 저것도 해줘. 대마를 대대 되는 거래 내 말에는 다 밀어 그거 따라 되는 내가 해줬어.
대도말 나도 너는 보고 말았어. 다들 너도 갈라내가 말고 깬 되더라면서.
맞아. 충주에 나다 거도 저것도 너무더라. 충주 살더라.
그래서 남자들 일라 소요대 가지 소소한 세당 되게 가지 보되게 되더라고. 예다지. 너가 너도 때는 이제 소다 다 된다고 그랬어. 나간데 조금도 예다를 조금 받아. 예다 때에는 가지 레서 저러나. 어떤 데들이 지금 또 내려고 지내 내려서
pena mazola milata tego mo 동안 전부 되는 거라. pena 저런 거 같다는 tego 동안 영어 가서. 다들
대원만 대원 하마트 되게 레서 하셔야 된다고 그랬어.
그래. 다들 밀라는 년 다.
되게 영어를 해서. 대원에서. pena 말들 말이면 또 이마 대원 대용 거 레서 하셔야 된다고 그랬어.
그래서 그게 다 차단이 되는 데죠.
스무 자동 전에 받는 수벌한테 칼라도 고개한테 칼라테서 말하는
So yeah, I mean, it's talking about everything that you said. Of course, it's talking about why we suffer, or why we suffer of the hunger and thirst. Of course, it depends on our body. If we don't have this body, we will not suffer at all. So the body that we have is the basis, for experiencing that suffering, and so that has to be part of it also. So without that, you will not. So even if you have created the karma, but if you don't have the body to feel hungry, then you will not suffer, right? So because you have this body, so that's another suffering, right? the all-pervasive suffering. So because we have this contaminated body, therefore we experience the suffering. And yeah, so it's talking about mainly talking about extreme hunger, like the the predators, like hungry ghosts. They go through this extreme suffering of hunger and thirst, so where you're not able to find food for years and years, and that kind of hunger thought. But even the small one, can be the result. The small ones compared to that, like what Geshe explained about, when he was a beggar, he couldn't find a food and he had to go through suffering of hunger. So that he explained. So that's also also a result of the negative karma of having swindled or robbed or steal other, and then acting miserly because of that also. But again, so it depends on how heavy the result is, right? So then that much depends on the cause.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Just thinking, I think this is what Geshe was talking about last week or the week before, but the self that's the object of self-cherishing, is that the same as the object of negation, or is there a little bit of difference?
Any cars. Dance is kangal. 나쁜 밥사도 지하시던 이게 때문에 그래. 나 나한테는 나 주보는 게 봤어. 나도 해야 돼. 다 자성. 가사 자성 때문에 그래. 알아 지든다. 나 주보. 대미라 다 강사세. 알아 지든다. 나 주보.
너 진짜 파가라.
나 가자.
진짜 너도 다 같이 보라.
인제 같이 봐지. 단 가로. 일단 누나 가자.
그래.
So
the way you grasp at that I, the self, of the self-grasping ignorance and the self-cherishing attitude. So the self is the same, but the way you grasp, so one self, the self-grasping ignorance, thinks that self is exists from its own side, right? And the self-cherishing attitude thinks about the self, thinks about oneself, oneself to be happy, oneself to be profitable and so forth. So always thinking about oneself. Right? So when you come, to think about it, the self is because of self-cherishing attitude. So if you don't have that strong grasping at the self as exists from its own side, then you will not have that strong self-cherishing attitude, wishing that self to be happy. So when you think about the self that you want to be happy, then what kind of self are you thinking about? Are you thinking about the self that exists by depending on others, causing conditions, or the self that exists from its own side? So the most probably, for the ordinary people, it will be the same self. It will be the self that appears to exist from its own side.
다 진짜 세대 강사 세대 나도 저거는 저거에서 강사 세대 지시자. 나 진짜 세대 다 아니 또 소소 주보 다
So self-cherishing attitude is the attitude that thinks about oneself. And even the healers and social realizers have that. They're thinking about themselves, right? But the self-grasping ignorance is the mind that grasps at the self as exists from its own side, which the healers and social realizers, arhats, don't have that. So they have abandoned that already, right? That's how they're free from psychologism. But they have self-cherishing attitude because they're still thinking about their own happiness. They're not thinking about others. They're not enlightened. So that's
Okay. Good. Yes.
How do I say this? Lately, I've had a hard time with my studying. When I first started out, studying was my strong point, and then there became a point when I focused more on meditation, and I was happy because I got better at it. But now, it's hard to revive that study strength, and I wondered if maybe you had some advice as to maybe what are some of the obstacles I'm making for this problem, you know, why I'm losing this, you know, my study's not, it takes more effort, and I'm not, I'm slow, and I'm just not sharp like I used to be, you know. I'm getting old, you know.
Join the club.
That's not fun.
The answer is really that. Because you're getting old.
그래 다가 니마다 다 토바치면서 저마다 제가 바로 되는 거는 공부를 쉬우셔 신성사. 공부 쉬우셔 친구들 다 공부를 하고 정성사. 얘나 다 그냥 그 다들 다 공부를 야고죠. 어떤 거를 탈치면 우리는 다 토바도 그거라. 다 토바치든 토바치 하고 있어. 난 토바치에 다들 키엔다 파트 키엔다고 가래놨어. 아 다들 도타 파치고 났어.
I think you're too lazy. I don't know, you know, sometimes, yeah, sometimes also they are lazy, also they are not enough to the merit.
Yeah.
Then your mind is more ignorant, you have to pray for the manjushri. So, Omara Patana, Omara Patana, another manjushri pray, the Kaluma,
Manjushri mantra.
Manjushri mantra.
For increasing your wisdom.
You know, early morning, you know,
Empty stomach.
empty stomach.
Yeah.
That time you have to, you know, visualization, the mantra that you can say, how much you can.
Okay.
Then create some merit, prostrations, you know, like that. And anyway, sometimes you have to effort, not too lazy. Okay?
Okay.
And you know, we are all getting old now. You know, there's some words that I remember as before I come here, then I hear, then I forgot. You know that Lamatonga was words here I can remember. You're getting old and the mind become very old. They cannot catch easy. Okay? Yeah.
I just have one more. How about something you said last on Sunday? You talked about when Nelson Mandela died, and you talked about how it's Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they emanate sometimes in the form of people who are not Buddhist. And I was wondering, is it possible to become enlightened without becoming a Buddhist? Is Buddhism the only way to become enlightened, or just one way to become enlightened?
다른 배나 다 가상 결혼이 안주 선거들 다 삼신들 겨 가지고 겨 내는 거라서. 근데 이제 남방 많이 되는 겨 렌스를 했어. 남방에 되는 겨 렌스를 했어. 근데 지나들에 남방 많이 나들은 거 상계 그래. 여기 남방 상계는 이제 남방인 거라서.
상계어 남바시 그랬어. 얘나야. 양 만주 나들라 근데 지금 남들 나 그래. 나서 떼고 말이야. 또 남들 떼고 그랬어. 아주 단다 상계대도 남의 쉬는 시죠. 상계대. 다 상 남의 또 남아인 거 그랬어. 뭐이네들아 양만주 다 대잘한 나들라 남의 나죠.
So in order to benefit other sentient beings, they can come in different forms, right? But to become a Buddha, you have to follow the Buddha's path. So you have to be Buddhist, and you have to follow Buddha's path. And so without that, there's no other path to become Buddha.
Yeah, the Buddha's path.
Yes.
Well, what if there's other world systems where a Buddha is teaching, but it's not in the form of Buddhism? Like Buddhist is a historical doctrine. But what if there's another world system where there's a Buddha teaching, but it's not necessarily Buddhism, it's another path?
So that's Buddhism too.
No.
So Buddhism. So then it would be a different name, but it's the same thing as Buddhism.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay?
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Would it be the same, forget what you call it, you know? But would it be the same path?
Yeah. Yeah, they can call different names, but the path is the same. loving kindness,
That makes sense.
compassion with each other, love. Like that, okay? They can call different names. I really try this. I'm really thinking, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi. Buddha said, when they have the benefit, I will do the many different kind of forms.
So many different forms, many different aspects.
Whatever more benefit there is. That's very wonderful. Very benefit all centuries. Okay?
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Back on. Thanksgiving mandala on page 39. It's in Tibetan. Sashi Hoki Yoshimi Toka Ri Rabin